Tel Aviv. We actually doubled up, doubled down after the acquisition. And we're now 120 people, creating tens of millions of dollars of revenues. So I want to tell you very briefly about our story. Not necessarily in an Israeli context, but if you want to ask questions or you want to take me somewhere, just go ahead. We're three founders. All of us today are 37. We started the company when we were 32. I graduated the Israeli Air Force Academy when I was 20, and I stayed in the Army until I was 25. Then I basically traveled for a year. A lot of times when people talk about what they did, they take that away. And I believe that traveling is a part of what makes you a fearless entrepreneur in a lot of ways. So I feel that traveling was as important. I did it 3 times, but the first one was the biggest, the longest one. Then I became a journalist in Tel Aviv's biggest newspaper for Israel, biggest newspaper, Yediot Ahronot. I was working there for 3 years while trying to graduate my degree, which I didn't. And by the way, I know a lot of entrepreneurs that didn't graduate. I would say 50%, more or less, of the people I know around me that have companies didn't graduate. So it's an interesting data point. I basically started studying computer science and philosophy, and while doing that, I became a journalist, and it was so much more fun. I left journalism after 3 years from one basic reason, which actually led me to I just thought the business is dying. And being a writer in a newspaper is becoming commoditized. Business doesn't work, and the ideology behind it doesn't work as it goes down. And then I thought I wanted to make something myself. So in order to have some money so I can start something, I flew to Africa, and I lived in Angola. I traveled in between jobs, and I went to run a UAV, unmanned air vehicle project in Africa for 1 year. It wasn't such a, well, professionally it wasn't a crazy challenge. The challenge was the logistics of working in Africa, and that was a crazy challenge. So it was basically, I think, was the biggest preparation for having your own startup. Because in Africa, if everything goes well, it was a pretty easy job, but tons of times, like costume don't want to give you your engine, or there's shooting. It was a crazy environment, and I think I learned a lot out of it. And then I started 5 Min in '06 while I was in a long vacation from Africa. I didn't live it then, and I bought that because that's kind of like, I just went to Google, like typed chaos on Google Images, and that's what I got. I think I chose randomality, because a lot of times you hear people talking about their startups and how they planned that ahead, but I think that as things happen in life, it's coincidence. So one of my best friends, who really took us for the ride and took us forward, was an advertiser. And he got fed up from the advertising business as well, which I think is much worse than journalism. So, and from the ethics it has behind it, etc. And he basically left it after 3 years and was the strategic planner for McCann Erickson, with the goal of having something of his own, not necessarily web driven, but just to fulfill a dream and move forward. He actually almost opened a t-shirt brand because he had a few icons that he was drawing, and he thought that would be great for t-shirts. But as an advertiser, he saw the rise of YouTube. It was the early days. It was '06. YouTube and Meta Cafe, which is an Israeli company as well, were head-to-head. YouTube didn't win yet. Tons of video views, and he was blown away from the adoption of content. It was clear we can't join the game because it was already evolving. But what thrilled him was that he remembered our parents doing the Jane Fonda DVDs, or it was video cassettes. I think she was the first one that really inflated the do-it-yourself industry, right? And he remembered how basically she taught people to do yoga, and I don't think there was Pilates then, but and it was a great success. If I remember it, living in Tel Aviv, it was globalized into our house. It was probably great. And we thought about, all right, YouTube is all about, you know, user-generated content. The actual kind of like brand safety is zero, and we both understood content really well. And the average content was stupid to funny. And we said, what if we can create something much more professional, focus on do-it-yourself in text, like the web was full of textual explanations. You know, there's sometimes technology comes together at one point. There's broadband, no one thought about it. And the breakthrough for us was that we understood content very well, and we understood brands very well. And we thought that it's very clear for us that if we would scale a how to play football video, Nike would sponsor it. We had no, like, as long as we scaled it. And we went into the web, and we just wrote very simple how to make an apple pie, you know, how to do Pilates, and some other very, very well searched phrases. Nothing in video, nothing. So we realized that there's a game here. And really, it's like you go into the web. So I have a lot of ideas, a lot. And I can, through the first Google search, I can give you, like, is it saturated? Is there a chance? Is it empty? It was really empty. And we just went for it. I left my job. I've quit. He did. He quit before I did. And we set in coffee shops in Tel Aviv. And we started drawing what we want to create. And the roller coaster began. And we came with an M5 Min because we thought we were going to be a do-it-yourself property, destination. And we thought that people across the globe would basically upload their yoga tricks and their Pilates and the recipes and the health tips. So we would just gather that, and everything can be learned in 5 minutes. Right? Basic concept. That's how we started. September 2006, one of our best friends, a technologist, worked for 888, which is a big gambling company in Israel that got IPO'd in $2 billion on the London stock market. We pulled him away, and we were 3 people with a dream. No money, no page views, no video views. It was, you know, moving from scratch with a very strong passion and idea. We didn't really have a lot of experience on the web as well. We searched around, and we started, we basically started pitching ourselves, and we got $50,000. That was the start, like really from, like, if you want a bootstrap story, we're a bootstrap story in that perspective, because no one heard about us, so it was hard to get money. It's the 3 Fs, you know, the 3 Fs for first funding. It's friends, families, and fools. We got that, and we took 10 to 15K. We have a friend who's, his father is a pilot in the Israeli airline, so he was able to arrange him a ticket. We gave him 10K. He went in the streets of New York. He got into stores, and he said, I'll make you famous. Help me to create how-to videos for free. And we were basically shooting 500 videos for 10K. Like how to make hummus, and magics, and recipes. It was great entrepreneurial thing. And we started gathering all the videos. We went to a designer. We started to design a website. I remind you, it's 06. The site doesn't look that different today, but the site is irrelevant today, so I'll touch that as well. 50K. Two people worked for us, mostly on options, which is something Israelis like to dream. Right? I think Americans are close to that. In Europe, people don't like options. They want cash. They want a salary. And we got people that were ready to work for nothing with promises. And the nice thing about March 2007 was that things evolved. We had a product. We looked serious. We raised $300,000. I think it was one of the most exciting days that we had. We burned $10,000 a month, more or less. We had a site. We went live. We had 1,000 videos. 500 that we had a deal with a DVD company through mails. They shipped us the DVDs, we digitized them, we took them live, content we produced, press, which I understand well, and then nothing happened, right? Took it live, and nothing happened, as always. Now you press enter, we had to press, we even had a TechCrunch article, if you know TechCrunch. It doesn't really move the needle. So you have money, you have a site, and you start to rock. Then we realized we need to go for social. And this was the Wild West again. Everything right now looks like a brand. You can see it even on, I see Facebook on TV, on buses, like mainstream. It's like 3, 4, 5 years old. And we realized that if we want to bring users, we got to use these platforms really well. Again, went to bloggers, didn't post an ad, didn't go to headhunters, search for really, really good bloggers on the web in Tel Aviv. Gave them a call, said, come to work for us because you understand social, come help us. We really understood these platforms well. And we got a lot of views from that. And actually after 3 to 4 months, we had 1 million people coming into our site a month to watch videos. It doesn't sound like a lot to me today, but it's a lot. It's 1 million people. And we got buzzed. And people started to write about us here. And suddenly I started to get mails from American VCs asking me to meet them. The Israeli VCs didn't like us at that time at all. Israel is not really good in media companies. I think we're a media company more than a technology company, although we have a lot of heavy technology. And they just didn't like us, but here people liked us. And we always wanted to raise money here because this was our market. I flew here, slept on people's couches, not even direct flights, usually through Istanbul, Moscow, the cheaper the better. I had a few friends that were living here, slept on couch, and in January 2008 we raised $5 million from Spark Capital, which is, I would say, the best VC in the East Coast in my opinion. They did Twitter, Tumblr, and a lot of big properties. We became a real company. I moved here very, very quickly. We basically relaunched another company because opening a company in New York is starting from scratch, starting to work globally with 2 properties, and that was our numbers. So we really had a lot of people watching almost 5 million videos a month, 50,000 videos, right? Things happen really fast on the web, which is cool, which is great. I like the internet, everything's possible. But we didn't like most of our content. A lot of it was user-generated content, and the traffic didn't stick. So, in May 2008, we have money, people talk about us, we reach the glass ceiling, which is we know how to bring people from Facebook, from Dig, from Reddit, but they don't stay, they don't come back. The reason they don't come back is that it's a how-to video site. Would you go back every day, watch a new recipe? It's just not, it's a great tool if you look for something, but it's kind of a commodity. And we started to see a drop in our numbers, and we started to see a drop in what we do. Not nice, you can see the curves. And our social interactivities, we couldn't spend more money on them. And I'm always putting this because I think crises are the best creative time ever. Party begins because you're running out of money, and we realized that people would not go directly to 5min.com to interact with us. It just won't work. Dev team in Tel Aviv, we had 3 to 4 people here, and we realized that the best way to really make people watch our videos is through search. Because eventually, when you want to know something, you go to Google. Right? You ask Google a question, and then Google will give you the answer back. So instead of trying to bring people from social media to how-to videos, we should just wait for them when they look for answers. And that's complicated. Spent a lot of money on search, learned it from scratch, we had no capabilities. And I mean, we just basically got a lot of traffic through search. And here is the next eureka, or the next crisis, or where I think really this is the breakthrough that really made us what we are. We realized that we can take content from companies. I was able to close Scripps. You know who Scripps are? AGTV, Food Networks, DIY Network, like one of the biggest companies here. I closed it with Comcast, Britannica Encyclopedia. We started to move and shift to really professional content. We threw away all the UGC. We became really good in what we're doing, but then we realized that we're fighting against people that are writing the articles. And they also write, fight search. And eventually, to create a video is much more expensive than creating an article. The whole infrastructure, not only to shoot the video, which we didn't, but like to get the streaming, to create the player, and we realize we cannot win, because no matter how much people liked our site, if people really liked our content, when they came in with an intent, they stayed for 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 minutes, just didn't come back, and then we needed to win them again in search. And here is something we understood, and that completely transformed our company, and I think was our biggest breakthrough. We realized it doesn't work. We sat down and realized that we should supply videos to all of our competitors. Right? Why should we fight search? Why should we try to bring people to our destination? Who cares? People want to know things about health, about recipes, about sport, about whatever. Tons of articles, hundreds of millions of articles across the web. None of them have video. What if we would create the first syndication technology and platform that every publisher, every people that have sites would be able basically to go to a library, which is the best one, is curated, etc., and automatically take videos into their site. And when I say automatically, I mean like in 5 minutes. What if I can just take an embed player? You know what it is to embed a video player? Did you take a video from YouTube to your blog or to Facebook? What if I can do it once in my site? Just once, I'll embed the TV, and we would read all the articles, understand them, and match the best video automatically. What if we can take a site with 10 million users and 20 million articles and put a video on every page in seconds and split the revenues in the ecosystem? We basically, while evolving and growing, realized that this is who we are. We are basically going to aggregate the best content, vertical content, in the internet, and today we work with Huffington Post, and every video you see on Huffington Post is ours, and we made Huffington Post a huge video platform after the acquisition, and I basically run the video strategy there as well. But we basically, consumers are insights, we know what they look for, we have great content, great technology, and we just took a shift. And I went to Israel, we created the technology, bootstrap, we didn't do any press, and on January 2009, we had 4 million uniques in our site because we were really good in search. 10 million views. We launched Video Seed, which is our product. In June, we took another 7.5 million. Look at the numbers. We went to 11 million people watching our videos, and we had 24 video views. And this is June, and a year after we got acquired, we had 26 million Americans watching our videos every month. That's a lot. It's almost one of each 10th American. We had 150 million views, and we were making a few $1 million, close to 10 a year. So it was really, I think, one of the most amazing things for me as a person to feel that you start with something, you end up in a completely different place with the same concept, by the way, that Nike would buy a lot of people that are interested in sport if you can scale. Like the core idea that we had in the beginning didn't change, but the way we executed towards it, I think was, I wouldn't call it Israeli, because I know a lot of really great Americans, but it was very loose, very open-minded, very aggressive, and with a lot of chutzpah. We don't have enough time to tell you stories, but we navigated our way to the bottom line. We had 12 competitors that went with how-to video site. We were the only one that took that direction. And we took a huge bet, and today, by the way, we're the 6th biggest video platform in the US. We're #1 in 7 verticals, including food, home. YouTube is not measured because their content is being tagged by users, so it's not reliable, so put YouTube aside. We're #1 in home, food, fashion, entertainment, business, autos, truck in the US. And we were #1 even before the acquisition, but now our gap is really high. And that was our story. And I'll just leave it for you guys right now.
Okay.
To interact and maybe put some context on the Israeli side of things as much as you like.
We don't have, because we have 2 speakers, I know you have to run. There's not time for a real long Q&A session, but thank you for that. It's incredible, the power of video. The last speaker we had at the Pace Pitch contest was Sal Khan, who started putting up 10-minute videos to help tutor his niece, and now there's 100 million downloads, of this Khan Academy. I mean, it's amazing, the power of video. But if I could ask you just to close, kind of a reflection now that you've started, you're from Israel, you work with, you started a company there. Now you set up and you built a company here. Now you're working, as a senior vice president at AOL, right in the middle of corporate America. Just close with some thoughts on the difference in business culture, both from like a day-to-day life as a business person, executive, and kind of just some broader reflections on doing business and conducting business in these 2 cultures.
Yeah. So I would say I live in 3 cultures. It's startups versus corporations, and I'm also Israeli, which is not it's not intuitive for me. The closest thing I had to working in AOL is working in the Air Force, actually. It's a very disciplined place. I would say this. First of all, I think that Israelis are great when they begin companies. I think Israelis have an advantage on Americans, again, I'm generalizing, in the first 2 years. Because that's where, I feel that we got educated. Someone told me, when we see walls, you usually go take something and break them and go through them. And I said, no, I don't see them sometimes. Sometimes, where you see walls, I just don't see them. And I think that, again, in context of out of the home from 18 years, since we were 18, I've been 7 years in the Army. I managed a very, very big operation when I was 21. So something in that kind of and a lot of improvisation. And let's get going and everything would be okay. I think that the interesting thing for me was to learn that at one point in our time scale, I needed to adopt a lot of American things in order to get going. Because I think when things are getting bigger, America is the best country in the world, right? To have a 7,000 employees companies, I don't know another place with so many companies. And I think that Israelis, and maybe immigrants in general, but Israelis need to have a point in time where they decide to adapt and keep our DNA, because our DNA is our instinct, but to adapt. For example, and I can't say it to camera, we had no passion to hire Israelis in our New York office. No passion. And there's a huge network of people. Today I relocated 8 already to AOL, so it's not something against. But we wanted the culture to be to fit where we are at, the market, not to come and educate. So I think that there's a lot of things that Israelis have in the first few years. I see it as great advantages, and then at one point you got to decide that you're adapting, and if you talk, I cannot interrupt you in the middle of a sentence. which I did in the beginning a lot. But it's small things. I mean, the adoption is a cultural adoption, because if you want advertisers to buy with you and publishers to work with you, you need to be reliable. And you need to show that, yeah, the company was originated in somewhere else, but you know, if the market is here, we're adopting, and I think that Israelis are good in adopting. We're kind of survivals, so that was an interesting experience.